1913, three things happened. Income tax, Federal Reserve, and the 17th Amendment, which says that the Senate must be picked by majority vote as opposed to the legislatures of the states. So check out the history of this stuff. Don't just take my word for it. And even if you don't agree with me on everything, and you're not going to anyway, but please read up on the history of things. See that the Federal Reserve was created by the banks themselves and one senator. Just read up on history. It's all there for you, so especially on the internet, like I just said. So check it out. The income tax is the one tax that was definitely unconstitutional until an amendment, the 16th. So I want you to check out the 16th Amendment, the history on that as well. That is key, because that is probably the biggest violation of property rights in the whole Constitution, which is actually totally against the whole, the spirit of the Constitution. The Constitution was meant to prohibit the government from doing things, not to extend benefits to the government. So check it out. All right, so also, I want to read it off. Yeah, I'm wasting time. I know. It's cool. All right, so the 16th Amendment, it's really easy to read because it's like one sentence. The Congress shall have power to lay and collect taxes on incomes from whatever source derived, without apportionment among the several states, and without regard to any census or enumeration. Now, the whole thing is, the original taxing powers of the Congress were only specified to apportion among the states or the federal territories themselves. They can do whatever they want to the federal territories. How about that? I said, wow, I've got a graphic for it. How about that? So anyway, they are allowed to lay excises, imposts, exposts, and duties, from what I remember, in the Article 1, Section 8. But this kind of violates the whole principle of the thing, because this allows a direct tax on you. They've never been that close until 1913, except for a couple instances. They never lasted. Income taxes never lasted at the federal level until 1913. This made it absolute. And so, I mean, I'm being taxed, what? Probably around 15, 20% altogether on my income by the federal government itself. And then there's a 5% income tax on the Massachusetts level, and that's 30% of my income goes to government, as opposed to me. I could have been out of debt by now. That would have been nice. But it's just the principle of the thing. I own my body, therefore I own the labor that I create with it, and I own. Therefore, all contracts that I go into, they are all by me as opposed to a government. So all the labor that, or 30% of my labor goes to the government. And that, is arguably partially slavery. That's just the point. Actually, another point was brought across to me as well. Because you are free, if you are a free person, if you are actually free, then you actually are totally responsible for your actions. I'm sure most people would agree with that. You are responsible for yourself. So what's the government have to do with that? If I'm responsible for myself, we can bring this back to either labor or speeding. If I'm responsible for my labor, then I get all of the, benefits of my labor. If I'm responsible for my speeding, then I have to take on all repercussions of whatever I do. But the government can't tell me what to do. The government can't regulate my labor, can't tell me who to contract to or what to do with my contract, but they do anyway. And the government also tells me that I can't speed, can't drive drunk, though I shouldn't anyway. I'm not saying I should, but it's the principle of the thing. I'm responsible for my actions. I have to take full responsibility for it. I can't be told what to do by a nanny government. And that also goes along with the whole idea of Social Security, Medicare, war. I'm actually propagating war by paying taxes. You realize that? I'm also propagating this false system called Social Security. I pay a tax, and this Social Security benefit gets paid to other people, though at a much more discounted rate, if you will. Because if we pool in all of our money, some of that money will go to the people actually doing the work, the government, and then the rest of it trickles down to the people that need to be paid through Social Security. So, in the end, it doesn't work. Bailouts, same thing. The money that's paid by us as a taxpayer goes to these big banks who are already rich as it is, and we keep this crap system up. The argument is that, and a lot of people will agree with this, thank heaven, is that if those banks failed, then actual good banks like Danvers Bank, someone's close, they would be, brought up because they're good. They actually are trusted by people, and they didn't need a bailout. Those banks could have failed, and we would have, had a much better system for it, even though it would have hurt us for probably about a year or something. But we wouldn't have had this unemployment crap that we still do. Take a look at California. Their unemployment rate is through the roof right now, probably around 22%. So, but that could have completely changed. So, but what are we going to do with California anyway? Now they think about it. I keep on rambling here, but think about it. If California, I love you, Derek. So, if California were to, they're having a ton of problems right now. If California has to have a recession, then they should. The government is going broke over there. Never minding our own federal government, but, it's going broke. It has to, be conservative with its money. So, anyway, I just rambled a ton. That's awesome. How much time do we have? About half an hour here. I just thought of something here. Yeah, so if the Federal Reserve propagates this crap government that we have, the federal government. It's in debt up its butt, and it's because of these programs that shouldn't exist in the first place. They're totally unconstitutional. If you think about it, the bank shouldn't exist. All it does is propagate these bad programs. Half of you will agree with me on the war idea, that we shouldn't have these big wars that we can't afford. Never mind the fact that it kills people and it destroys property. But we're supposed to think that this is actually good for the economy because it creates jobs. No, it doesn't. You're destroying jobs while you have the same amount of jobs for a certain amount of time. Also, Half of you will agree with me that Social Security shouldn't exist. Obamacare should not come into existence. Medicare, Medicaid, all this other stuff. Because they're just social programs that will, in the end, destroy itself. So if you put the two together, come down to property rights. You own yourself, you own your body, you own your money, you own your property. If you put the two together, then you see that you're helping this welfare warfare state.